How long have you got? Well, here we are, a day or so down the line, trying to make sense of Rangers 3, Celtic 3, and that won't be easy because it was one hell of a derby. These games very rarely pass by with nothing happening, but this was taking it to the other extreme. There was just so much going on that I've got to try and cover on this video, as well as looking at the wider picture. And don't worry, we'll do all that. I know it might be Monday morning, you might be getting ready for work or on your way to work, or even Monday night and you're fancying switching off for a bit. Maybe put that on hold because we've got a lot to get through on this video. Should say first of all, apologies if I sound maybe slightly hoarse. I certainly sounded far worse when I got out of bed this morning. It's down to another pretty enjoyable night spent at the Melbourne Celtic Supporters Club, still unbeaten in 3 derbies there, which is a pretty good record. So as I say, let's just talk about the game first of all. And if you're talking about the game, you really have to start 21 seconds in, and the most ridiculous opening goal for Celtic. Before any of us had blinked during the match, we were 1-0 up. And yeah, came in, as I say, the most ridiculous of manners. I can't remember Celtic ever scoring a goal as daft as this, never mind in a derby. And in the nicest possible way, it could probably only have been scored by someone like Dyson Maeda. I mean, this clip, which is probably 18 seconds or so into the game, shows James Tavernier just noticing Dyson Maeda on his outside. And yeah, it's weird because Tavernier switches off at first, sees Maeda, then sprints, then kind of slows down again, almost as if he thinks that Maeda has eased off or Maeda's further behind him, and then tries to clear it. And it was just so perfect, so amazing. It goes in past Butland, and yeah, I can only describe it as having a 1-goal head start. It was as if the match started 1-0 to Celtic. I know there's been an earlier goal in the fixture, Chris Sutton, all those years ago. I find that, even more remarkable that it was a goal even earlier than that, because it was just so early. And as I say, gave us the perfect start, but it was a perfect start in that we still didn't know how the game was going to go because there had only been 20 seconds gone at that stage. But no, amazing stuff. From that point, I thought, the next 25 minutes were pretty even. Rangers kind of lost their composure a bit after that goal, as you would expect. Then they maybe gained it a little bit. There wasn't really many chances, maybe a couple of half chances. Goldson had that kind of header over the bar. But then from the 25-minute mark, which was a couple of chances we had the Maeda one, where he was sent through, I think, from O'Reilly. He should have done better with that one. We had the Real Hatate shot just wide as well at that stage. And I felt from that point in the first half, we were so dominant in that game. We go to the first of, I think, 3 big VAR calls, and shock horror, a handball from Connor Goldson. And even more shockingly horrorous, it's actually given. Penalty was given. Correct call for me, reached in the end. As you can see there, it clearly hits Goldson's elbow, which is out, and the ball has come a fair distance to it. Now, I don't expect you to believe me at all, but stood in the pub watching the game, I actually called Matt O'Reilly dinking the penalty. I just had this really weird feeling that under all of that pressure, that he would do something kind of mad like that. And that probably a good decision as well, because in a fixture of that magnitude, you kind of assume the goalkeeper's not just going to stand in the middle. He's not going to think you're going to have the audacity to try something like that. So Butland goes to the side and O'Reilly sticks it down the middle. And a really interesting comment from Brendan Rodgers after the game. Rodgers revealed that he knew that O'Reilly was actually going to do that. He'd been practicing it in training during the week. And he also came into Brendan Rodgers' office a few weeks ago to say that he wanted to take Celtic's penalties. So fair play to Matt O'Reilly. Thought he had a good game. Took that penalty excellently. We were in a really good position at that stage. We're 2-0 up Rangers were genuinely all over the place. Their fans were, even angrier than they normally are in their day-to-day lives. Kyogo had a header at the back post right after the goal. He had another one where he was sent through. Similar kind of position to the one he scored at Ibrox earlier in the season, and I was just saying, just hit it first time, but he kind of took another touch and the move got kind of defended by Rangers. O'Reilly also had that header just before the second goal. It was a really good save from Butland, so we were really peppering them from that 25 to 45 minute stage. And I think that's the one part of the game where I would say, had we taken a little bit more care, better finishing, better final ball, we really could have gone in 3-0 up at half time. And I think 3-0, the game would probably have been pretty much over at that stage. I know Rangers scored 3 goals in the second half, but I just think 3-0 at half time would have been much harder for them to get up for that. 2-0, there's always, an opportunity if you get that first goal. At half time, like all of you, I would assume, I obviously felt very good. Didn't feel like the game was over or anything like that. You always feel like you never feel secure at Ibrox, do you? Unless it's like back in 16-17 when we're like 5-1 up and stuff like that. But you always know that it really only takes one little moment that can flip the whole match and that kind of atmosphere and get their tails up. My big worry at halftime was something like that happening, and also one of our players, many players that were on a booking, I think we maybe had 3 or 4 in the first half, getting a second yellow, and that really changing the game for Rangers. I also, kind of knew that they would come out in the second half and be much improved. They weren't going to put in a similar kind of performance. Having said that, right at the start of the second half was pretty much more of the same. Real Hatate kind of had that shot from distance that almost kind of went past Butland. But then the moment that the game flipped, and it was the Fabio Silva moment, running at Alistair Johnson, who was already on a booking inside the box. It's a dive for me. He definitely falls to the ground. It wasn't the slight contact from Johnston that made him fall over. He actually takes a step further and then goes down, which is just evidence of him, playing for that penalty. Yeah, I think it's a really soft penalty. Sadly, it's the kind of thing that you do see given, from time to time these days. It's almost like there's just a feeling with VAR that anytime there's any, contact at all, the slightest of touches, like there was from Johnson on Silva, and it's given as a penalty. But the minute I saw there was a slight touch, I honestly feared the worst. But yeah, for me, Silva's already on his way down. Johnson gets a touch in the ball as well, which I think is a point some people have missed, and it's just a bit of a nonsense for me. Again, I ask the whole, was it a clear and obvious error from John Beaton that had to be corrected? For me, not a chance. But, it's given and we have to deal with it. By the way, I just want to say, Fabio Silva's conduct during the match I thought was pretty embarrassing. Even Rangers fans, I think, would have to admit that, the way he was rolling about in that first half. Like, I think over the course of the game, he was down, holding his face like 4 or 5 times. It was totally embarrassing, and he should be totally embarrassed with the way he performed during that match. But, I guess it worked for them in the end because they got a penalty that got them back into the match. And yeah, from there, I'll be honest, this is probably where I get a little bit critical of Celtic. I thought our composure went. Rangers scored, a minute later. Dessers at the back post. It's eventually, chalked off for a foul on Tomoki Iwata, deep into the build-up. Again, it's a foul. I think it's more of a foul from Tom Lawrence on Iwata than it was from Alistair Johnson on Fabio Silva. Certainly, if VAR was deeming the penalty for Rangers, the one on Silva, as being a foul, it had to deem the one from Lawrence on Iwata being a foul. So there's no way that goal could have stood. My big surprise was that John Beaton didn't give it at the time, because I just thought watching it on TV in real time, it just looked like a definite foul, and I can't understand why that wasn't given. But anyway, VAR on this occasion intervened, the right decision. And yeah, we kind of got out of jail a little bit there, because as much as it was a foul, our composure had really gone at that stage, and straight away, it's just mad. It sums up what I was saying a minute ago. You can be cruising at Ibrox 2-0 up, and then literally 2-3 minutes later, you're back levelling and really up against it to even try and get a draw. As it was, 2-1 up, I still thought we struggled to find composure between that point, which was, probably not far off 60 minutes and full time. Adam Ida was probably the only player who really kind of looked good in that last half an hour, certainly attacking wise. He was the only guy who really gave us something. And yeah, you're a goal up at Ibrox, 15 minutes to go. It's a familiar position. We've been there at least 2 times over the past couple of seasons. That famous 2-1 win we had, Postecoglou's first season. The last half an hour of that was very much just defend your box. And we did it really well. Earlier this season was the other one, 1-0 up, for all the second half, defend your box. Again, did that pretty well. A few scares, but did it pretty well. And it was just more of the same. And I kind of backed Celtic to do it, because Rangers hadn't really caused us too many issues. And if I'm brutally honest, it was probably our own players who kind of caused us the issues in the end. And even someone like Callum McGregor, I give him a little bit of a break, because he was just back in the team. But it was his mistake, a really daft pass to Yang that led to the equaliser for Sima. The third equaliser, the third goal for Rangers, was Yang just letting Matondo run inside him. Again, just really soft, really weak for that stage of a crucial derby. And I thought Yang in particular was just really poor when he came on. He's got a long way to go, that guy. He's clearly got talent, but he needs to really work on his kind of match intelligence, because he doesn't have it for a fixture like that. So that was my big frustration. Obviously not holding on to the lead was the main frustration, but the fact that both goals kind of came from errors. And even the third goal before Yang, I think it's Alistair Johnson, he kind of has a chance to clear it. Maybe the ball goes through his legs or past him, and I just thought it was quite soft. And I just think if we'd have been a bit more streetwise in those final 5 or 6 minutes, we would have been coming away with a really big victory. Obviously need to talk about Ida's big moment as well. Right after Rangers, made it 2-2, just a really terrific solo finish. Great ball from Paulo Bernardo as well. Those guys might be 2 big players between now and the end of the season. They might not start many games, if any, but they both showed that they're up for the fight and were able to give us something. Ida in particular, I thought was really good when he came on. Really gave Goldson a torrid time. More so than Kyogo had been at the start of the second half. I thought that was a really good sub from Rodgers, and took the goal really well. Just such a shame for him and the team that it wasn't a winning goal at Ibrox, because that is a goal we would have spoken about for years and years. But a terrific goal nonetheless. And yeah, the game finishes 3-3, and probably like all of you, my immediate emotion at full time was disappointment. It was a game that we'd been in a winning position in twice and hadn't been able to get it over the line. And I just had in my head, a victory would have just been so amazing there. It would put us in an incredible position and really hurt them so badly. As it was at full time with them coming back, for them it probably did feel like a bit of a victory. And, I understand it. I think we'd have been the same, had the boot been on the other foot, with us going to Ibrox. And if we'd have been 2-0 down at half-time and come back to get a draw, we'd have all been feeling great about it. So I understand that. But the reality is that it was only a draw for them. And I don't think you'd have found many of their supporters who would have been happy with a draw on Sunday morning. So, yep, disappointment right after the game. Still a little bit of disappointment there right now as I speak. But I think the kind of overwhelming feeling I have is that I think that was a decent enough result with regards to our chances of winning the league. If we're honest about it, yesterday was probably a must not lose for this Celtic team. Had we lost the game yesterday, they would have gone a couple of points clear of us. They still, would have had a game in hand this coming midweek. There's a fair chance we'd have been starting on Saturday 5 points behind them with just 6 games to go. They could have come to Celtic Park, lost, 10-0 and still had everything in their own hands had they, taken care of their other matches. We denied them of that yesterday. I think that's really important. There's a lot of talk about it being in our hands, and I know it's in their hands as well. But I think, for me, yesterday may have been about not losing the league, because I genuinely think had we lost, it wouldn't have been over, but it would have been a bit of a tall order if we're all honest. The next derby will hopefully be about winning the league, and I just don't think you can underestimate the effect that no away fans is having on this fixture this season. I know we've gone to Ibrox and get 4 points from 6 with no fans, which by the way is an incredible record, but I just think it's such a tall order for an away team in this fixture. And we've navigated that yesterday, no damage done at all. If anything, we've improved our chances with that result, and we know they've got to come to Celtic Park. 60,000 Celtic supporters, so up for it. I think the atmosphere is going to be incredible. We've kind of got that 3-0 derby from February 2022 as the pinnacle, certainly recently. I don't think that's ever going to be beaten, because that was kind of the perfect storm of conditions, with it being a night game and a chance to go top and not having beaten them in so long. But I think this game coming up is certainly going to be the biggest derby in a number of years, and having it at Celtic Park, I just think is huge. Comes down to one simple thing for me: do you fancy Celtic's chances in that game? I 100% do, based on how yesterday went. And yes, 6 wins from 6 will win us the league title. So yeah, disappointment yesterday, not winning the game. It could have been better, but I think, if you look at it properly, a draw is decent enough, and it gives us a good chance. I think the team really have the bit between their teeth now. I think they showed that yesterday in getting a positive result at Ibrox. And as I say, Rangers coming to Celtic Park in probably 4 weeks or so. I really fancy our chances in that one. This is the Premiership table. So yeah, we have the points advantage, but they have a game in hand. But we have a home derby to come. But we'll probably have to win that. See, there's positives and negatives for both sides. I really feel like it's, just so tight at the moment. I think it's kind of 50-50 at the moment. Maybe even slightly in our favour. But, a Rangers fan doing a similar video to this would probably say that it's in their favour as well. The bottom line is I'm comfortable with where Celtic are at now. We have 6 games to go. 4 of them are going to be at Celtic Park, 2 away from home. Rangers have 7 games to go, 2 of them at Ibrox, 5 away from home. Now I think that's very, very important. And if you're ready for a big prediction of the day, I think Rangers will drop points over the next week. Anyway, this is what the title run-in could look like. And please don't take this as gospel, because a lot can and will change. Obviously, the fixtures above that line are set in stone. The ones below it are probable or possible post-split fixtures. Certainly, there'll be a derby at Celtic Park. I think certainly Hearts will be at Celtic Park. Rangers will be at Tynecastle. Seems very much like we'll be going to Kilmarnock and St Mirren again. We're due to go to both of them. We've played both of them twice at Celtic Park. Equally, Rangers are due both Kilmarnock and St Mirren at Ibrox. By the way, Kilmarnock and St Mirren have both assured top 6 finishes already. The final spot is going to be between Dundee and Hibernian. If Hibs manage to finish 6th, it'll be very easy for the SPFL, because they're due at Celtic Park again, and Rangers are due at Easter Road. If it's Dundee, then the games will probably have to be flipped. So we are actually due to go to Dundee again. However, we are due 3 home fixtures after the split. That will definitely happen, so it would seem very much like that Dundee-Celtic game would be switched to Celtic Park. Equally, Rangers are due Dundee at Ibrox. They would probably be sent to Dens Park for a 3rd time. Obviously, they go there in midweek as well. So, yeah, a reminder that 6 wins from 6 will see Celtic champions again. Okay, just a few other things before we go, because I knew this video was going to be long, but it is exceeding expectations. A wee roundup of Brendan Rodgers' post-match press conference. He was keen to point out that he wasn't disappointed with the team in any way. He didn't agree with the decision to give Rangers a penalty. He said that the player, very keen not to use Silva's name. He said that the player had simulated, which I think we'd all agree with. He felt that the referee had made the right call on the pitch. He praised Iwata, O'Reilly and Hatate in the midfield. I would agree with that. I know Iwata was getting some kind of harsh treatment, but I thought Iwata was all right. Fine. I think McGregor's certainly a superior player in those fixtures, and McGregor will hopefully, be ready for the next derby. But I thought in general there was plenty of good performances yesterday. I just want to read out one quote, a wee bit of a lengthy one, actually taken from 2 separate answers that stood out to me from Brendan Rodgers. And he was asked if he felt the result leaves us in a good place to win the title. And also, he was asked about the reaction from the team and whether he was disappointed in any way. Quoted as saying, "I could see that the players were disappointed that they hadn't won, but for a team that have been written off and told they've been going through the motions all year, then we definitely turned up. This is the business end of the season and we're ready to turn up. I've got nothing but positivity for how mentally they were in the game and how they approached the game and the courage they played with. Knowing the backing that we'll have going forwards now will be immense, and that will be huge for us. It puts us in a really strong position. We still have a lot of work to do. There's still 6 games to go, but when you have your nearest rival to play at home in front of 60,000 and you're going to be stronger again when you get to that moment, I'm very happy with that." I think that's a very telling quote from Brendan Rodgers. He's clearly, quite content and happy with how yesterday went, despite us not actually winning the game. And he's clearly pinpointing that Rangers visit to Celtic Park as being, one that's really in our favour. And I tend to agree. I just think with the bottle that this Celtic team have, and I just think the lack of bottle this Rangers team have, not winning yesterday. I know they came back, but it's still a game that their fans will feel they should be winning. I just think them coming to Celtic Park, 60,000 fans, screaming their head off, I think that's a good one for us, a good matchup for us. Obviously, other matches as well are going to play a big part in this. I don't think, there's definitely going to be drop points by at least one team against, so-called lesser opposition. By the way, Philippe Clement described his team as the moral winners of the day. I guess we'll settle for being title winners at the end of the season. Just finally wanted to bring up some unsavoury scenes from Ibrox. This is nothing new in recent times. John Kennedy allegedly struck by 5 or 6 coins, according to the Scottish Sun. They also say a bottle was thrown on during the first half, shortly after we had been awarded a penalty. Kennedy was reportedly formally spoken to by the police after the game. A Celtic spokesperson said, "It is totally unacceptable that our staff have once again been targeted in this way. We will be raising our serious concerns with Rangers, and we understand that the matter is currently being investigated by Police Scotland." There were also some unsavoury scenes between the players at full time. Todd Cantwell shoved Callum McGregor. BBC Sports Sound also reported that Rangers coach Alex Rae was involved in a confrontation before being pushed away by John Kennedy. I sense the reaction and fallout to this game is going to go on a little bit longer. I will be back tomorrow to take part in all of that. If you have just come across this video and this channel for the first time, as often seems to be the case after these big derby games, please consider giving us a wee sub. It costs you nothing, really helps us to grow the channel. We're not far off 5,000 subscribers now, and we've only been going like less than 2 months, so that's pretty cool. Please give us a sub. I'm back this time tomorrow.